This iPad works perfectly. I don't want to have it a bit more middle, so I'm doing that. That's all right. That's how you sit in this chair.
Police were called to the scene of another death arising from a domestic
shot and killed his
dispute
girlfriend,
24 hours after
in
turning
custody
this
evening
time,
after
the
allegedly
was
killing his wife in St. Mary's.
The Spotlight Initiative is a global multi-year partnership between the European Union and the United Nations to eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls by 2030.
With a commitment
Good
of
morning, Ms. Bisson.
from the EU, Spotlight represents an unprecedented global effort and the largest of its kind to invest in gender equality and women's empowerment. Spotlight engages men and boys as equal agents of change. Engaging men and boys is a key piece of our efforts.
The objectives of Spotlight in Jamaica are to contribute to the reduction of family violence against women and girls, and to improve access for women and girls to essential, safe, adequate, integrated gender-responsive services.
Not hearing you, right? Ms. Bisson, I think your mic is muted. No. Ms. Bisson, I think your mic is muted.
No.
No, forget the sitting, man. I know the camera. Just, I'm not hearing anything. So just relax.
Hearing anything either.
All right, anybody can hear me? There we go.
Yeah, we're hearing you now. All right.
Thank you, Minister. Okay, there we are. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you all. Thank you for your patience. Technology is great, but it will come with its challenges. Hello, everyone, officially, and welcome to the launch of the Domestic Violence Intervention Center's DVICS as part of the Spotlight Initiative, providing a space in which, of course, our most vulnerable in this country can realize their full potential in a violence-free, gender-responsive, and inclusive way. It is absolutely a new day, and it is my pleasure to be a part of this initiative. Just wave your hands for me if you can, if you want to turn on your cameras. Just want to see who is here. Dr. Horace Chang, yes, that includes you too. Her Excellency, thank you so much. Ambassador, this is our virtual hello to everyone. I know we are apart as we are operating in different spaces, but indeed we have come together for this very worthy cause. As we begin, I'd like to acknowledge some key individuals. I did mention their names just now, but of course we have to do so properly. And so today we have with us the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Also, we have with us Minister of Gender, Culture, Entertainment, and Sports, the Honorable Olivia Grange, who will be joining us throughout the proceedings, and we'll be hearing also from Minister, when we get into the program. We also have with us here the European Union Ambassador to Jamaica, Her Excellency Marian Van Steen, And also we have the Commissioner of Police, Major General Anthony Anderson, joining us. Also joining us this afternoon, we have the United Nations Resident Coordinator, Dr. Gary Dr. Gary Conneal. I did have that written down, Dr. Gary, because I wanted to make sure that I pronounced your name correctly. So we do have with us Dr. Gary Conneal. Members of the media or virtual viewers online, good afternoon to you all. We can agree, and we saw just now in the video, the numbers are alarming and the stories are chilling of the tales of the experiences by our women and girls. And that's why today is important. The program will contribute to the elimination of sexual and gender-based violence through the creation of a broad partnership with civil society, government, private sector, the media, very important, among others, and build a social movement of women, men, girls, boys, and other vulnerable people as champions and agents of change at the national, subnational, and community levels. To share with us is Spotlight Initiative Program Coordinator Alicia Bowen Mikulski, who will take us through further introduction of the project with greater details. So Alicia, you can go ahead at this time and turn on your microphone and your video and offer us your presentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bassoon. Good afternoon, colleagues. I'll be sharing my screen to give you a brief presentation on the Spotlight Initiative. Just let me know when you are seeing my screen. Can you confirm that you're seeing my screen?
Yes, we are seeing your screen.
Perfect. Okay. So as said earlier in our video, the Spotlight Initiative represents a global partnership between the European Union and the United Nations, and it seeks to eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls. This global partnership was launched September 2017. I'd like to note that the global partnership has an investment from the European Union of 5 million euros, and specifically for Jamaica, we represent one of the largest investment in the Caribbean countries with 8 million euros. The Jamaica Spotlight Initiative program was launched on March 9, 2020, and we received direct endorsement from Honorable Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness. While the program has a national reach, we target 4 specific parishes, namely Westmoreland, Clarendon, Kingston and St. Andrew, and St. Thomas. The program is guided by a few strategic directions, namely the use of intersectionality approaches, and this is grounded in the principle of leaving no one behind. Of course, you would know that this is a principle of the United Nations. The program treats family violence as a public emergency and also acknowledges that violence should be addressed using a life cycle approach, acknowledging that it begins at an early age. Another strategic direction of the program is addressing sexual reproductive health needs of all women and girls, but particularly for survivors of violence against women and girls in Jamaica. The use of comprehensive prevention and response approaches is also adopted while ensuring empowerment of youth and adolescent girls, and engaging men and boys are also critical strategic directions. Finally, data integration, accessibility, and its quality is a key focus of the Spotlight Initiative in Jamaica. Just to share our implementing partners from the UN, there are several UN agencies coming together in this joint program to demonstrate that delivering as one approach for the Spotlight Initiative. These agencies are UNDP, UNICEF, UNFPA, UN Women, and they are supported by PAHO, UNESCO, and UNAIDS. Of course, with such a program of this magnitude, we cannot do it alone, and so we have critical partnerships to implement this program, identifying that addressing gender-based violence is a multi-sectoral and multi-dimensional approach, the program has partnered with several government agencies led by the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport as our technical lead. We've also partnered with several civil society organizations, and I didn't have the time today to acknowledge all of you, but these CSOs work in the areas of the women's movement, safety and security, and key population are just a few of the groups of CSOs that we are working with. Now, the interventions of the program are streamlined in 6 pillars, otherwise known as our expected outcomes. For Pillar 1, we seek to support legislative and policy reform. Recently, there was a passage of the sexual harassment bill. The program supported the reviewing of and sharing recommendations to support this process. Pillar 2 seeks to strengthen national and subnational institutions. Here we are working with our government partners seeking to institutionalize and mainstream VOG in different frameworks across sectors. Pillar 3 looks at prevention and social norms. Here is the work takes place mainly at the community level, where we engage men and boys in and out of school youths and several other partners seeking to increase their awareness of GBV and how we can reduce and eliminate it by extent. Pillar 4 looks at strengthening quality essential services for victims and survivors. Here we look at bringing our service providers closer and increasing their capacity as we work with them in addressing GBV in Jamaica. Pillar 5, we all know that data drives development, and the program acknowledges this, and we've been working with our partners to strengthen data collection on violence against women and girls and GBV, and also looking at the international standards that are required locally to disseminate this information. Finally, Pillar 6 looks at strengthening the civil society movement in Jamaica. And here we have been working with civil society across the island to support the advocacy and increasing their capacities in addressing VOG in Jamaica. Today's intervention, the Domestic Violence Intervention Centers, contributes directly to Pillar 4, supporting us in delivering quality and essential services. The partnership between the ministry supports the Spotlight, achieving our goal of equipping relevant government authorities at the national and subnational level to better their knowledge and their capacity, most importantly, in delivering a coordinated essential services while increasing justices for women and girls, survivors of violence against women and girls in Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It was brief, but I hope you got an overview of the Spotlight Initiative program in Jamaica. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alicia Bowen, Mikulski, Spotlight Initiative Program Coordinator. They're giving us an overview of what the program entails, and I'm very happy to see that it's an inclusive one, because real change comes when everybody is involved. No one can be left out, even though, yes, we are, of course, looking at and prioritizing our women and girls, or men or boys are absolutely a part of the protection of our most vulnerable members, or girls and or women. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, the police plays a very vital role in the protection of all citizens, and I'm sure that they have numerous stories to tell about their participation in helping for the protection, in the protection of our women and our girls, and also the cases that they have seen and they've intervened in. To give the perspective from the police, we have Constable Ramona Tapper from the Jamaica Constabulary Force to give her presentation. Ramona.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. The Domestic Violence Care Centers were established to offer a safe space where victims of domestic violence and abused can feel comfortable and confident to seek help. In addition to stations, these centers will add to the existing ones and will make it easier for residents who need help to get it. It is to be noted that the center in Portmore, which is fully operational, is the first of the additional 6 centers to fully come on stream by the end of October 2021. The purpose and mission of the centers are pivoted on pillars of intervention: counseling, awareness, response, and empathy, and caters to all persons, including members of the JCF and their families. These pillars provide an integration surrounding public education and roles that are expected to lead to better outcomes. The centers seek to create an ambience of comfort and offers professional and confidential services in counseling, referrals to external agencies, follow-up with clients, as well as offering reliable and accurate information on domestic violence matters. It is to be noted that the centers will not only cater to victims, but also to perpetrators. This is important as the action of an abuser can also affect an entire community and result in further violence or death. It is our commitment that no victim will leave the centers feeling re-victimized. Therefore, as the JCF, in collaboration with our partners, continue to find holistic ways to intervene in domestic violence matters at an early stage, come on board and use the facility so that together we can reduce the number of domestic violence incidents and even murders in St. Catherine's South Division. Today, I feel proud to stand with our partners, Victim Services Division, GBA, our voluntary pastors, the courts, among others, who continue to partner with us in tackling the scourge of domestic violence, gender-based violence in Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen, let us together make a difference. Thank you, Spotlight Initiative, for this facility.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Constable Ramona Tapa. Thank you so much for your commitment. And hats off to the Jamaica Constabulary Force for their commitment. They're, of course, always rising to the occasion and offering protection to our girls and our women, and also standing, of course, up for justice and ensuring that we know that moving forward, as you rightly said, our victims will no longer be victimized as they go through this process of getting help. And as Constable Ramona Tapa mentioned earlier on, of course, the centers are fully equipped to offer that kind of care. At this time, we're going to be looking at a video feature that goes into explaining the setup, the services, and the build out of the domestic violence intervention centers. Please take a look at your screens, which you're already looking at.
Not everyone want to just walk into a police station. They want to go to somewhere where they know they can get the help. They feel secure. And so when you put these centers at the fingertip of residents, that they don't have to spend a ton load of money to come to Kingston to get help. When it's right there in my parish, it's all the better for us. It's all the better for Jamaica because the help is right there.
Once you come to our domestic violence center, You will be greeted with a pleasant face because what we do, we are about caring for persons and we're also about empathizing with persons. So when you come, you have an environment that you are comfortable in and that you'll be free to express yourselves and to seek the intervention that you desire, and we provide that avenue for you to come. It's a safe haven for you. Once you are with us in our center, you are protected. And so you can rest assured that we will act on your behalf and act in your best interest.
We have trained counselors who are not members of the JCF. We have community members who are trained in counseling. We have social workers, so we partner with other groups.
The center, it's a place, it's an environment where you can be comfortable. You can, when you come here, you're supposed to feel relaxed. So whatever the issue is, we're not saying that we are miracle workers, but what we're saying is that we are persons who are open to listening to you, accommodating you. We believe in confidentiality, and therefore whatever is said here is kept here. And so you don't have to be worried that, okay, the information that I have given my abuser or the accuser is going to get at me. You're going to get that information and find me.
Your friends might tell you their view, how they feel that you are to deal with the situation, but then you might have different thoughts. We work along with how you are feeling, what you think is we can do to assist you, and we work together. We don't give you our opinion, our personal views. We work along with your situation because it's not one size fits all. And we can direct you directly to where you want to go and to utilize resources that can help you in your situation.
Do not wait. The first sign, it's good to, but the first sign, it's best that you come out.
We have a gentleman who came to us in 2019, and he came and he said to us, I need help. I am an abuser, and I love this woman and I don't want her to leave me because she has 2 children for me. I want my family and I need help.
I recall dealing with a situation which the person, they were put onto a counselor, and I think it was a few days ago, they would have called and said, thank you very much. I really appreciate the effort.
The domestic violence intervention centers are free of cost. Once you call the police station, they will direct you to us.
Wow. I am absolutely proud of this initiative. I am so happy to see that in Jamaica we have a place where our women or girls, even our men can come to and get the help that they do need. And I'm happy to hear it is free and accessible, it is secure, and it will meet the people who need it most where they are. It is indeed a new day for us and how we empower our citizens and how we protect them. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, to keep the program going, we have the UN Resident Coordinator, Dr. Gary Conneal, to give his remarks.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Madam Minister of Gender, Culture, Entertainment and Sports, the Honorable Olivia Grange, Madam Marianne Van Steen, European Ambassador to Jamaica, Commissioner of Police, Major General Anthony Anderson, colleagues, heads of agencies, heads of UN agencies, development partners, attendees and partners on Zoom and social media. Over the past year, the United Nations in Jamaica, in partnership with the European Union, has worked very closely with the government of Jamaica, civil society, and women's groups to scale up efforts to tackle the scourge of family violence and violence against women and girls. Today, I am happy to report that we are one step closer to putting in place the full range of infrastructure and systems needed to protect women and girls from violence, with the launch of 6 additional domestic violence intervention centers across Jamaica. Now, the establishment of these centers is, of course, very much aligned with the government of Jamaica's commitment to strengthening and responding to, and of course, supporting victims of family violence and domestic violence. And the UN country team is extremely proud and honored to be associated with this effort. So let me first recognize the government of Jamaica for its leadership on this issue. I'd also like to recognize all the UN agencies, and you heard Alicia's presentation, that are involved in the Spotlight implementation. This is really very much a part of the UN reform to bring together different agencies and to support an issue from a very comprehensive perspective. But in particular, let me recognize the United Nations Development Program under the very able leadership of Mrs. Denise Antonio, who has been leading on behalf of the UN country team this component of the response. And of course, let me thank the EU for its strong commitment to reducing family violence and improving access for women and girls to essential, safe, and integrated gender responsive services, while engaging men and boys in solutions through this Spotlight initiative. You've heard, and I will reiterate, Spotlight is innovative in so many ways because it's a commitment from the EU to approach the problem in a very comprehensive way and making sure that resources are available so that we're able to provide this very comprehensive solution. Now, it's also important to recall that the Spotlight initiative aims to engender a whole of society and multi-stakeholder response to gender-based violence. And in this regard, the Spotlight initiative through the United Nations UNDP has also partnered with the Ministry of National Security and the Jamaica Constabulary Force to increase access to and delivery of essential services to victims and survivors of gender-based violence at the community level. The partnership has also helped strengthen the capacity of the Jamaica Constabulary Force to respond to GBV, with 16 officers assigned to the DVICs participating in survivor-based training hosted by the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA. With supplementary training in Jamaica Sign Language, DVIC centers are working to ensure that no victim is turned away and that our response leaves no one behind. You've heard the numbers, they're unacceptable. We repeat them every time we meet, and we need to continue to repeat them because they need to change. The good news is I think we're on the right path. Fortunately, the government and its partners are committed to this whole of society approach to moving violence against women and girls out of the shadows and into the spotlight so that we can truly end all forms of violence against women and girls and achieve gender equality in this lifetime. We look forward to working very closely with the government, implementing partners, civil society organizations, and all other partners in response to gender-based violence. Thank you so much for including me, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the presentations.
And thank you, Dr. Gary Conneal. Thank you so much. UN resident coordinator there. Thank you for your remarks, sir. And also, thank you for the commitment and endorsement of this initiative, this program, of course, for our citizens or women or girls and our men and our boys as well. Thank you for your support, the continued support of the UN to our initiatives here in Jamaica. And as we continue the program, ladies and gentlemen, we only have an hour, and so we want to ensure that we get everyone here who is a part of this initiative, of course, to the forefront in their presentations within the time. This time I'm inviting to speak to us our Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson to give his remarks.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. So good afternoon, Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of National Security. Thanks again for your support in this issue. DPM. Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports. Minister, another successful cooperation between our organizations and our ministries. And I think Jamaica will benefit from this one as well as all the others that we do. Her Excellency Ambassador Marianne Van Steen, head of the European Union delegation to Jamaica. It's good to be on the same platform with you again, Ambassador. Your presence in Jamaica is always felt. We've been to a number of openings and ribbon cuttings and other events that have all or will all redound to the benefit of Jamaica and Jamaican people. So thank you. Dr. Gary Conneal, United Nations Resident Coordinator, and other members of your team, thank you very much for partnering with us on this development. And my own team, led by Dr. Kevin Blake, Deputy Commissioner for Force Development and Logistics, Mr. Gary Griffiths, Assistant Commissioner in charge of Area 5, which hosts most of our domestic violence centers, Mrs. Karina Hood, Assistant Commissioner and the JCF Staff Officer, and of course, the Superintendent in charge of St. Catherine South, where this latest center is located, Mr. Christopher Phillips, other senior officers and members of the JCF, members of the media and viewers online, good afternoon to everyone. This is a good day. We discussed earlier this year the opening of a number of domestic violence centers with a timeline that was looking at the end of year. Fortunately, we have brought this one forward, and I think that we will establish the other 5 after this, long before the end of the year. So we're actually ahead of our planned implementation, which is good. And it's good, especially since most things are actually retarded because of the effects of the COVID pandemic. It's interesting also, I actually have been in a meeting with other regional police chiefs, including those of Colombia, some of the other Caribbean countries. And this is a matter that arises in all of our jurisdictions as police officers. However, I think it's somewhat leading and at the forefront of things to actually have the police actually have domestic violence centers and managing these centers. You know, very bright, very capable officers, as we saw with Ramona and the other officers who are at St. Catherine South Center, who can actually manage these centers and deliver what we want to our population who are affected by this. A number of countries respond to this in different ways, but I'm happy that the JCF can be a significant part of our response to this in Jamaica. And that's beyond just law enforcement, but understanding that the Jamaica Constabulary Force is a force for good, and so has to participate in all areas of life that may affect our population adversely. We've had 704 domestic violence cases referred to our existing 4 centers this year, well, certainly up to September, and a number of these were dealt with at the station level, i.e. at the center, utilizing the range of specialist resource staff that's available to us. And then we've referred others to the Dispute Resolution Foundation, shelters and services offered through the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports. We've also had the opportunity to review our own domestic violence policies and guidelines. These are guidelines that we've had in place for a while. And even the idea of domestic violence intervention centers were started a few years ago, largely led by former DCP Novlet Grant and her team, and of course, Inspector Dillon, who has played a huge role in getting us to where we are. But now we have to expand beyond that this new 6 centers is an important next step. But as soon as you put them in place, you can see that there are areas in the country that are deficient of such an initiative, and that we're going to have to look at reasonably quickly to get them in place in some other locations. We trained 140 persons last year, and 175 police officers and other persons who are associated with the domestic violence centers this year. So today we have another fully operationalized DVI center located at Greater Portmore Police Station, and that will serve a wide community over there. In the next few weeks, we will add another 5 centers: St. Mary, St. Anne, St. Elizabeth, Clarendon, and Westmoreland. And we're also looking at another one to put in place in Montego Bay. This will initially increase the centers in the country to 10 under this initiative, and then the one other in Montego Bay to make 11. And we're, as Ms. Tapper had said earlier, it's important that not just these centers, but every police station needs to be a safe and welcoming space for the public, especially when we're dealing with vulnerable persons. So I thank everyone who has contributed to making this possible today. Thank the UN, UNDP, the Spotlight Initiative, and all the persons involved in it that you saw fit to be partners with the JCF. We have to do this. We have to fill that gap as a police force wherever there's a gap, because ultimately domestic violence, if not dealt with early, becomes our problem as a crime. And whatever we can do to avoid it getting to that point is something that we're committed as a force, and a force for good, to do. So thank you very much. And I think this is a launch pad for a great future and a great benefit to our community and public. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Major General. Thank you so much, Major General Anthony Anderson, for your presentation. Thank you so much for, of course, your role played. We want to say, the JCF continues to show up for our citizens, and we know that with these centers, this should better assist, of course, our officers to provide the interventions necessary. Thank you for the role that you played in ensuring that we are here today. Thank you so much, Major General. And ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we hear from our European Union Ambassador, Marion Van Steen. Please make her welcome.
Thank you, Debbie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, Ambassador.
Well, let me start by acknowledging the presence of and greet the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of National Security, also to the Honorable Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, to Major General Anthony Anderson. Thank you for your always very nice words. Commissioner of Police, Dr. Gary Coney, close cooperator of the European Union. Also Alicia Bowen, Constable Ramona, members of the GCF, members of the media, everyone who's present here connected online. Good afternoon. Very happy to see that there is a strong presence, which means that there is a strong interest in what we are actually launching today. It is a good day, Debbie, I agree, or Major General. It is a good day, and I'm very proud to share with you in the achievement of one of the very significant milestones of our Spotlight initiative. But on the other hand, it's also a sad day because despite the tremendous progress that we have seen in almost all spheres in this 21st century, domestic violence, and in particular gender-based violence, still remains too prominently present in, unfortunately, all our societies. And that is why the European Union, indeed, committed as we are to the promotion of the fundamental value of gender equality, is financing this global Spotlight initiative. There is a reason why it's called Spotlight, because we all think and we all know that it is time to shine a light on what too often remains in the dark, i.e. family, domestic violence. And in its largest meaning, we all know that the majority of the victims are women and girls. And that is very unfortunate, but I have heard as well that the intervention centers are also going to welcome men and boys, and we should not underestimate the importance of that as well. Let me say that the security and health sectors within the government are at the front line of prevention and also ensuring quality care and access to justice for victims of domestic violence. What we do, both the European Union with its financing, but in particular the United Nations with its being present on the ground, is that we would like to support those efforts, but the efforts are from Jamaica. How do we do that? I think we've heard a long list of activities that we undertake under Spotlight, but let me in particular highlight our efforts to help building and strengthen the capacity of the agents of the state to respond to reports of family violence through evidence-based interventions, monitoring, and accountability systems. And then, of course, what we are really here for today, through the establishment of 6 domestic violence intervention centers at various police stations, allowing the Jamaica Constabulary Force to respond more effectively and deliver quality services to victims. We've heard it from Major General. Data from the GCF show an increase in crime and violence, and this is indeed, and very unfortunately, also the case in the category of crime, which is referred to as domestic violence. And it's not only here, it is in the entire world. There is a report of the World Health Organization that shows that approximately 42% of all women have experienced some sort of violence. It is a less visible pandemic, but one that we cannot longer ignore, one that insidiously is eroding the well-being of many, many individuals and many families. Let me please therefore take this opportunity to address a word to the police. You are the gateway for individuals who seek protection from abuse, who are seeking access to justice or are brave enough to seek redress from harm. You are the lifeline for victims of domestic violence and intimate partner violence, especially those facing multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination. Let me underline one thing. Empathy is key. I very much hope that the officers who will be selected to serve in these domestic violence intervention centers will not only see the crimes that have been committed from a law enforcement point of view, but that they will also be able to interact with empathy, looking for ways that can lead to conciliation and lasting peace within families, and thereby save lives. I'm pleased that the Spotlight initiative, we can contribute both ways by trying to help build the capacity and also build the infrastructure. Because better infrastructure is needed not only to provide for better working environments for the officers, but also because they are points of refuge for the victims. Let me end by saying thank you. Thank you to the Police Commissioner, Anthony Anderson, and the entire Jamaica Constabulary Force, to the ones working out there and giving the attention to those who are most in need. Let me also thank to the authorities of Jamaica ministers to acknowledge the need and assume the responsibilities we all have. And then finally, I should not forget to thank our wonderful implementing partners of the Spotlight Initiative, dear Gary Coney, and all the various UN agencies that are committed, that are active, that are very hardworking, and without whom our funds may not have the results that we're seeking. Thank you to all of you, and I hope that with us all coming together, we can work towards a less violent domestic environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Beautifully said. Thank you to Her Excellency Ambassador Marion Van Steen from the European Union. Yes, indeed, we have some ways to go. Today is a step in that direction, in the right direction, with these 6 domestic violence centers at the police stations, allowing our officers to meet the needs of our women and girls. And thank you so much to the EU for the continued support as we continue our work in curbing and ultimately stopping violence against our women and girls. And of course, we take the charge, Ambassador, as well, to do even more in this continued fight. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time in the program, I know we are virtual, but this is Jamaica. And so for sure, we would have some kind of cultural representation in our proceedings. With us, we have Cherry Natural. Her name is Marcia Wedderburn, to offer up 2 pieces, of course, shedding a cultural light, a cultural spotlight on today's cause. Cherry, are you ready?
Yes, I am here and I'm ready.
All right, over to you.
Okay, give thanks, greetings everyone. All right, the first piece is called Talk, Sister, Talk. Talk, sister, talk, just talk. Talk about what bother you. Talk about who trouble you. Explain where you feel the pain. Pour your heart out. Break the conspiracy of silence. Stop the internal violence. Talk about things your parents never see. Call out all who molest you when you are picnic. Even if are the pastor upon the pulpit. Talk, name the culprit. Let out them secret. Talk, sister, talk, just talk. Women need one whole day of talking. It's enough things them been suppressing. Earth need healing. Let the healing begin. Talk, sister, talk. Talk about the teacher who used to trouble you, your stepfather, your own father. And if your mother used to shield him, talk. Let out the anger so you can be stronger. Talk, sister, talk. Talk about your uncle, your grandfather, the next door neighbor, family, friends. Talk. Clear your conscience. Let the puss out of the bag. If you protect the one who wrong, you're guilty too. Stop it before it reaches someone else. Don't be afraid. Talk. Talk, sister, talk. Your body is your personal property. No one has the right to force themselves on you. No one has the right to force themselves on you. It does not matter if friends and family don't believe. Talk, express how you feel. Give it to them real. Don't take them blame or be ashamed. You did nothing wrong. Talk, sister, talk. Just talk. The weapon of silence is the abuser's greatest tool. So talk, sister, talk. Talk. Give thanks. And this one is called I'm Woman, taken from my 3rd book called The Lyrical Contortionist. Yeah. If I advocate for my rights as a woman, I'm not betraying my man. I have needs to be free. I need to be me. I have a brain that's ticking, 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 sending messages of consciousness to be manifested for my generation to emulate. Yes, I'm woman. I don't have to be weak and fragile to be desirable. Why treat me with contempt and hostility because I think for myself? I'm not your enemy. I speak from my own mind, make my own decisions, and I'm willing to learn from my mistakes. I have the power within me to be what I want to be. I don't have to be your clone to prove to the world I'm in love with you. No, I don't. I don't have to be your doormat. I don't have to be your slave. I don't have to be weak for you to be strong. Life cannot be created without me, my brother. You are only holding back yourself by standing in my way. When the feeling is not right, I will be gone. Gone. And you know what? I will be taking me with me because I'm woman. Give thanks.
Powerful presentation there, Cherry Natural. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know that we are getting virtual applauses right now. I'm looking at the comment section and they are loving the inspiration that you have provided for us. Talk, sister, talk. I think that's becoming a hashtag online as well. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sherry. Bless you. Thank you so much for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, as we continue with the proceedings, we have two powerful keynote addresses. I'm sure there will be. And the first one is from our Minister Olivia Grange, Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sports, who has been an advocate for our women and our girls. And she has been talking, that's for sure. And so we are here today. And I'm sure she's proud of where we are right now, Minister, as we do have ways to go, but we are here today. And so we are very happy to have you with us. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Debbie. Honorable Dr. Harris Chang, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security. Major General Anthony Anderson, Commissioner of Police. Her Excellency Marian Van Steen, European Union Ambassador to Jamaica. Dr. Gary Cornell, United Nations Resident Coordinator. Ms. Alicia Boyne Mikulski, Spotlight Initiative Program Coordinator. Constable Ramona Tapper, JCF, Moderator Debbie. And of course, my sister Cherry Natural, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and all the participants. The government of Jamaica continues to utilize a whole of government approach to tackle domestic violence, which is a local and international dilemma. Through the Bureau of Gender Affairs within my ministry, and the ministry is called the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport, the Gender Mainstreaming Program works closely with key stakeholders, such as the JCF, to effectively respond to domestic violence to create a safe and more equitable society. The handing over of 6 domestic violence intervention centers under the EU-UN Spotlight Initiative to the JCF is indeed a watershed moment and a proud moment for us. It represents a major achievement in our response to the long-standing problem of domestic violence. These centers are strategically placed and will play a critical role in the delivery of service island-wide to support the implementation of the National Strategic Action Plan to eliminate gender-based violence in Jamaica, and we refer to it as the NSAP GBV 2017 to 2027, as part of the comprehensive treatment of this vexed issue of gender-based violence. The Bureau of Gender Affairs works closely with the domestic violence intervention centers to provide psychosocial support and counseling to victims and survivors of domestic violence. And this support is provided to persons who experience domestic violence or may not be admitted to the national shelter which we operate. So the centers complements and strengthens the Jamaican gender architecture in the delivery of quality and coordinated essential services to survivors of domestic violence. Consequently, I must say at this time that I've reserved a place for the Jamaica Constabulary Forces Center Management on the Gender Advisory Council to work with us on the implementation of the National Strategic Action Plan to eliminate gender-based violence in Jamaica. The addition of 6 new centers will go a far way to close the gap between individuals who experience domestic violence and their ability to access the services which are available at the parish level. The JCF must be acknowledged and must be commended, Commissioner, for the strategic application of the 5-pillar strategy for crime prevention and citizen security. The momentum is gathering locally, regionally, and internationally. As Minister with responsibility for gender affairs, I'm proud to say that my ministry has been working assiduously to table the approved amendments for the Domestic Violence Act, which you need to ensure that the appropriate action can be taken in cases of domestic violence. The approved amendments have already been through 2 rounds of review between my ministry and the Office of the Chief Parliamentary Counsel. Currently, we are awaiting feedback from the Attorney General's chambers, subsequent to which we will table the bill in Parliament, and I'm hoping to table the amendments very, very soon. The amendments include, but are not limited to, the following: specific definition of domestic violence in the Act to recognize the physical, sexual, emotional, and psychological aspects of domestic violence. Under Section 3, the power of the court has been increased to grant a protection order or an occupation order. As Minister of Gender Affairs, I have been given residual power to act on behalf of victims and survivors of gender-based violence. And the Bureau of Gender Affairs, as well as the Women's Resource Outreach Center, are authorized to act on behalf of victims and survivors who need to apply for a protection order. Also, the fine for the breach of a protection order has been increased from a mere $10,000 to $1 million. And stronger penalties will be put in place to address the issue of enforcement, particularly in cases where protection orders are breached. So the amendments signify the government's commitment to protecting our society, but more specifically our women and girls from abuse in domestic violence, our women and girls and our boys. Whether it be sexual, psychological, financial, emotional, verbal, and economic. There will be an expansion of the categories of persons allowed to apply for protection orders, as well as the expansion of prohibited behavior patterns. No longer will victims be restricted to establishing a pattern of abuse before redress can be sought before a court. Instead, the Act will provide for the protection of the victim from the behavior patterns of an abuser that can become abusive, from the threatening, harassing behavior of persons connected to an abuser, as well as the confiscation of a firearm from an abuser when used in a threatening manner. These amendments signal an intention to do more. And I can tell you that many more far-reaching changes are coming when we do a complete overhaul of the Domestic Violence Act. I've already written to the JCF to provide updates on our national shelter strategy, and they have responded with the appropriate officers to provide support. I will continue the consultations through the Ministry of National Security to look at how we can further strengthen the domestic violence intervention centers through the parameters set in our national policy for gender equality, the NSAP GBV, Victims Charter, and the 5-pillar strategy for crime prevention and citizen security to do the following. 1, incorporate a mobile response unit to strengthen the DV responses island-wide. 2, create GBV mappings from the daily crime reports across the divisions. 3, create partnerships for the observance of the International Day for the Elimination Against Women, Violence Against Women 2021 to share updates with the public on the outcomes. 4, strengthen partnership between the Bureau of Gender Affairs and the JCF. And 5, working with community groups. And so far we have over 20 community groups that receive subvention from the Bureau to provide greater support to the established DVICs. So in closing, I use this medium to congratulate the EU-UN Spotlight Initiative team in Jamaica, their recipient agencies, their associate agencies, and the European Union for the sterling work that is being done to address family violence in Jamaica. I commend the JCF for the ongoing implementation of the crime prevention strategy to address the underlying complex social, economic, and cultural processes that contribute to crime and victimization. I am really very pleased with the kind of partnership that exists between the BGA and the JCF. Commissioner, I thank you so much for your support, and I thank the Minister of National Security. The long-awaited legislation aimed at tackling sexual harassment in Jamaica, I am now very proud to say, has now been approved by both houses. Following extensive debate on Friday, October 1, the Sexual Harassment Prevention and Protection Act 2021 was passed in the Senate after being approved in the Lower House in July with specific amendments. The legislation addresses concerns about sexual harassment in the workplace, in institutions, and in accommodations, particularly with regard to landlord and tenant relationships. So my ministry and my team will continue to partner with the Ministry of National Security, with MDAs, with key stakeholders, to ensure that gender mainstreaming remains a cross-cutting tool in all crime fighting strategies in this country. I thank you all, and to say today is indeed a step in the right direction. I thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you so much. Wow, amazing. And I'm seeing the comments in the chat section here. Courtney Brown is agreeing that we are indeed making forward steps in the right direction there. And also Jacqueline DeLeon is saying, great work, Minister Grange. Well done, team. Amazing. It's good to hear about the amendments that are on the table that will provide strengthening, of course, at the law level, and also for the resources that we do already have in place. And also the early intervention that it will provide for or vulnerable women and or girls, you know, much to consider there. And I must applaud Minister Grange for the continued advocacy from her personally and also of her ministry as well, as we step up and rise to the occasion for the protection of our women and girls. Thank you so much, Minister. And at this time, we invite Minister Dr. Horace Chang, Minister of National Security, to give his address. Good afternoon to you, Minister. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good afternoon, Chair. Mr. Bassoon. Thank you for the opportunity, and I must begin by just commending you for having Ms. Welleburn, Chair Natural, set the tone for the final presentation. She really reflected so much positiveness in our culture. Honorable Oliver Grange, our Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, for that fantastic address. Thank you for the level of cooperation from your ministry in this very crucial and critical issue that we deal with. Our ministers work very well together. Mr. Grange, this is just one more success in our cooperation. Good to have you where you are. Ambassador Van Stein, head of the European Union, delegate to Jamaica. Since coming to Jamaica, you have been very much present with the JCF across the island, opening stations, and now working in partnership with us on a number of crucial issues. We begin by expressing our appreciation for the partnership with the European Union and the energy you brought to it in your presence. Again, not only thank you for being here, but welcome to Jamaica again. Mr. Gary Conneal, our United Nations Resident Coordinator. Ms. Denise Antonio, Resident Representative of the United Nations Development Program. And of course, to my Major General Anthony Anderson, the Commissioner of Police, from where we are. So it was good to hear you. Commend you for the transformative leadership you have brought to the Jamaican Conservative Force, and to all members of the team who represent the force extremely well this morning as they spoke on this new initiative. The other representatives of the media and those who might be listening in on this program. Good afternoon to you. I want to begin my remarks this afternoon with a quote from the Pan American Health Organization publication recently entitled "The Heavy Burden of a Silent Scourge, Domestic Violence." The author called attention to the fact that the adverse effects of domestic violence do not end with these or other health consequences for women alone. What makes domestic violence particularly insidious is its intergenerational effects. Domestic violence is not a scourge like most other scourges. Its harmful effects do not disappear with the generation that was directly involved. The scourge will be resurrected in every successive generation unless we treat it as a public health emergency and make concerted efforts to eliminate it. These activities today in handing over the 6 domestic violence prevention centers, they lead part of moving in this direction. It is regrettable that in Jamaica, domestic violence continues to feature prominently on the spectrum of acts of violence taking place in our society. While it is often overshadowed by gun violence, which tends to receive greater visibility in the public space because of the sheer brutality of gun violence, domestic violence is no less deplorable and repulsive. The long-term traumatic effects of domestic violence surpass the family members that are directly involved. Domestic violence is a societal issue, and it is the root cause of additional violence and a wider cultural violence that tend to pervade our society. There's an established correlation between toxic stress as a result of violence in the home and the rate of violence that occurs in our society. Societal scars have their genesis in violent homes. Toxic stress in homes, especially among young children, create toxic, violent young adults. We must therefore acknowledge and accept that the true cost of domestic violence is its long-term impact on our society. Mindful of the broad social impact of domestic violence, the government of Jamaica is committed to providing the requisite legislative, policy, and partnership support in order to curb the societal tendency toward violence. The Ministry of National Security and the police force stands at the forefront, but is a whole of government activity. The fairly young democracy would have inherited institutions and systems that were founded on coercive practices that have resulted in what we see taking place in our society today. So, for example, beating was considered by many to be the most effective means of disciplining a child. And during intimate partnership disagreements, physical and verbal assaults are commonplace. Even the Bible is drawn to play, as it's often quoted by some of our members of the older generation, that the Bible says, do not spare the rod and spoil the child. The government is unequivocal in our opposition to all acts of violence. It's for this reason we have established the Violence Prevention Commission to have a holistic approach on the issue of violence, including domestic violence. The commission reports directly to Honorable Prime Minister. You'll recall, as a consequence of Jamaica's history of enslavement, the Jamaica Constabulary Force was, for example, was established in the principal coercive arm of the British monarchy. The police were the front line of British authority and utilized primarily as a coercive force to maintain control and hold the society in control on behalf of the crown. Today, the Jamaica Constabulary Force is a force for good in our society. The authority is based on respect for the people they serve and protect. It's a good start in the arduous process of mindset change that is needed in Jamaican society, in Jamaican homes in particular. Handover of 6 additional domestic violence prevention centers to the Jamaica Constabulary Force sends a strong signal of the repositioning of the police in our society and restores hope to victims of domestic violence. This is a true picture of the new direction of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, a force for good. I wish to thank the European Union and the United Nations who facilitated the establishment of these centers through the EU-UN Spotlight Initiative. I'm confident that having these facilities in place will not only strengthen the capacity of the police to rescue and support victims of domestic violence and their families, but importantly, these centers will provide a refuge and a beacon of hope for these victims. And not only a beacon of hope, but begin to overcome the propensity for violence in our society by reaching the families and individual homes that in fact are involved in domestic violence. It's the root of the propensity for Jamaicans to be violent to each other. Again, let me thank all who have participated and all the partners who have in fact been involved in the EU-UN Spotlight, in particular, our European Union, and United Nations team. Look forward to continue work with you as we build out the centers, establish the program required to ensure that we will, in fact, bring under control and in the medium term, eliminate the plague of domestic violence. And thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Horace Chang, Minister of National Security, for your address. Indeed, thank you for your remarks and for setting the tone for the new direction of the JCF as a force for good and understanding that domestic violence impacts us all. We understand that this is a gamma task, but if we all come together and play our part correctly, that we can indeed make great improvements for our citizens of Jamaica, particularly, again, our women and our girls and their safety. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for being with us here this afternoon. We did not do too badly with the time, even though, yes, we are a little late. Yet still, we want to say thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Thanks for partnering with the Spotlight Initiative to achieve this milestone for the provision of 6 additional DVICs. Special thanks to the DCP Blake, also DSP Thompson Cake, or is that Coke? Sorry, I beg your pardon. Inspector Rowe, thank you so much for joining us. Inspector Dillion, the Development and Logistics Division, and other JCF team members that played a role in making this a reality. Thank you so much to Kingston Logistics Center, KLC, for the modification, design, and transport of the centers. Want to say thank you to, of course, everyone who joined us. You are online, you know yourselves. We had up to 73 persons, I believe, at the highest number that joined us here today. So we want to say thank you for joining us. Thanks to Minister Grange for joining us, Minister of Gender, Culture, Entertainment, and Sports. Thanks again to our National Security Minister, Honorable Dr. Horace Chang. Thanks to European Union Ambassador to Jamaica, Her Excellency Marian Van Steen, for joining us. Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson, and United Nations Resident Coordinator Dr. Gary Conneal. Thanks to the members of the media who will be spreading this information far and wide, or virtual viewers all. Thank you for joining us. My name is Debbie Bissoon. Thanks for your time. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Police were called to the scene of another death arising from a domestic
Shot and killed his
dispute.
girlfriend,
24 hours after
instant custody
this
this evening
time,
after
the
allegedly
was
killing his
reported
wife
to
in St.
Captain
Mary's.
The Spotlight Initiative is a global multi-year partnership between the European Union and the United Nations to eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls by 2030.
With a commitment of €500 million from the EU, Spotlight represents an unprecedented global effort and the largest of its kind to invest in gender equality and women's empowerment. Spotlight engages men and boys as equal agents of change. Engaging men and boys is a key piece of our efforts.
The objectives of Spotlight in Jamaica are to contribute to the reduction of family violence against women and girls, and to improve access for women and girls to essential, safe, adequate, integrated gender-responsive services.